This is the Ryzen 7 5800X 3D, and in this video I want to talk about why this might be one of the best upgrades that you could possibly get for your PC, especially if you play driving simulators and flight simulators. So fasten your seatbelts, make a cup of tea, and get ready for a bit of very dry CPU talk. Game of muscle, do not listen to what he says. So welcome back all subscribers, channel members, and people that are just lost on the internet. If you were around yesterday, you might have caught our 12-hour live stream where we tested some old games, or tested our games with the old CPU and then put the new CPU in and tested the games with the exact same settings with this new CPU to see how much of a difference it would make. Now, for £350, which is the price I paid for this, and this comes without the heatsink, I was expecting a little bit of an improvement of performance, but not the degree of performance that I got from it. So to give you an example, our sort of benchmarking, now this was not scientific benchmarking, I'm not a hardware review channel, go to like the hardware review channels if you want to look at actual benchmarking and see how it compares to everything else. But for my specific scenario, I went through the games that I normally play. I put the games on with lots of cars, me starting at the back of the grid, just to see what frame rates we would get, and then so I could compare the exact same scenarios with this new processor, just so I had a little bit of a example. So the impressive thing with this is, right, okay, in Assetto Corsa, I put the VRC mod on, which is one of the heaviest mods that's come out recently, the new Tourer mod. We had 15 cars, I think it was, in front of us, starting at the back of the grid, pure, and my settings on the settings that I normally use. With the previous processor, the Ryzen 5 5600X, I was getting 45 FPS. This is at the start of the race with it all padded out. Normally when I'm driving, it'd be like 100 FPS, but in this scenario, we were getting 45 FPS. When I swapped the CPU over to the 5800X 3D, instantly we were getting 150 to 180 FPS. Like, what on earth? Absolute bottleneck destroyed. AMS2, previously, full grid of cars at the back of the grid, I was getting 110 FPS. Now with this new processor in AMS2, we were getting 200 FPS with the same settings. Absolute madness. Race Room, which is a notoriously single core and pretty heavy game because it's using quite old game technology. It's not really taking full advantage of your graphics card. Previously 50 to 60 FPS. With this 90 to 100 FPS. ACC 50 to 60 FPS. With this instantly 100 FPS. Absolute madness. Now, as I say, those previous that testing was with sort of worst case scenarios, race start at the back of the grid. You know, normally with my previous CPU, if I was normally driving and just doing proper racing, I set it up with the games. I set them up to generally try and hit about 75 to 80 FPS. But now with this new processor, basically I was able to put most of the games. AMS2 can just be on full maximum graphics, and at 4K resolution, it just hits 100, 110 to 200 FPS all the time. AC, we've just literally maxed it out in Content Manager, and with like full grids of cars, track details, everything maxed out. We're hitting 100 to 150 FPS pretty much all the time. It's absolutely mental. And this is with a 3080 Ti in my computer. So the previous processor, the Ryzen 5 5600X, was definitely bottlenecking things. And specifically, where this new processor really shines, and what I really noticed, and I think this is because of the high amounts of L1, L2, and L3 cache on this processor, what you really notice is that you don't tend to get those sort of frame drop issues that you get. So even when you whack the settings up, or even when your frame rate does drop due to a scenario in a game being very demanding, this processor makes it such that you're not getting those like occasional brief 3 or 4 frames that are like way below. It's like, say you're normally running at 75 FPS, you might have a couple of frames that are like just not, it just drops to like 12 FPS or 30 FPS and then goes back up. Or even if you're running at 100 FPS and it drops to 60 FPS for 3 or 4 frames and then goes back up. That's what would happen on my previous processor. Whereas with this processor, things just generally run a lot smoother and a lot more consistent, which for me is really, really nice because I'm quite prone to motion sickness, and if you've got a really nice OLED gaming monitor or just a gaming monitor, and especially something that's running at 120 140 hertz, you start to really appreciate that complete butter smoothness that those monitors can offer. So this processor allows you to really fully unlock that performance, and this has been the best upgrade that I've ever done to my system. Like, there are aspects of upgrading a graphics card where you can if you're running higher resolutions and you're pumping up shadows and all these things, but you can't really understate the importance of your CPU, especially when it comes to simulators that have a predominance of really needing that single core performance and needing that L1, L2 and L3 cache. So yeah, if you're looking for an upgrade and you've got a lower AM4 socket from even like a year ago, and you want to move things forward without replacing your motherboard and everything, this is the thing to go for, especially for simulator fans. Flight sim, driving sim, as I say, it's that single core performance in the L2 cache. Simulators especially really benefit from this type of processor. It's also worth me pointing out as well, to upgrade this processor, I upgraded my BIOS and also re-went through BIOS settings. And I do think that the settings I had on this computer, at least at the point where we did this video and the last live stream, I don't think the BIOS settings were optimal. So I don't think the XMP profiles, in fact, I know some of the profiles weren't the best because when I'd set them before, I was having some stability issues. So I kind of just went back to safer settings. So what is worth doing though, before you upgrade a graphics card processor or RAM, go through, make sure you've got your BIOS up to date if it needs to be up to date, and make sure that your the BIOS options, your RAM speeds, XMP, all those stuff, make sure that's optimal to see what you can get from what you've already got. Make sure you've got like MSI Afterburner, overclock your graphics card just a little bit, or see what the optimal graphics card settings are for your graphics card and make sure they're maxed out. In fact, undervolting with a lot of 30 and 20 series graphics cards can yield quite a lot of performance and stability, weirdly. So before you upgrade, try those 3 things first, I'd say, because you might be able to get quite a bit of performance out of them. But if you are upgrading and you're on an AM4 socket, get one of these. And if you buy it on Amazon, by all means use the Gamer Muscle Amazon affiliate link underneath the video. But hopefully this video was useful for you guys. I hope you probably had at least 3 cups of tea to get through this. Absolutely loving at the moment live streaming and just chatting rubbish with everyone. So make sure you subscribe and click the bell and join us in our live streams. Also, I have to say a massive thanks to members and people that support us, because it allows me to remain independent and just do whatever I feel like doing, which I really do appreciate. We've escaped the shackles, so thanks for that. And sorry for, well, I'm not sorry. I'm glad that you've lost brain cells watching this content. Till the next one, though, guys, happy tea drinking, take care, and goodbye.